What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for the first match preview stream of the Europa League as Spurs face Qarabag in the first game. New format this year. It's a league of what, 36 teams? 38 teams? However many it is.
36 teams.
36, and you want to be finishing in the top 8. In the top 8, you bypass the next round and you get a bye basically into the last 16 or the quarters?
Into the last 16.
Into the last 16. If you finish 24th or like 9th, 24th, then you go into the last 32. So with the fixtures that we have, I mean, no matter what fixtures we have, we surely got to be looking to finish in that top 8.
Yeah, I think 5 wins probably does it. Obviously, I'm not really sure exactly how many points it's going to take because it's a new format. So, there's not really an average. Like you can say, like, for example, in the Premier League, you can say, like, on average, 70 points gets top 4, all that kind of stuff. Because it's a new thing, and we're not really sure exactly what it will take. But I would guess 5 wins, you'll definitely be in that top 8. I'll be amazed if more than 8 teams get 5 wins in that league. So that should do it. And you look at our fixtures, especially the home games: Qarabag, Elfsborg. Who else are home games? Roma. There's who's the
who'd say Qarabag, Elfsborg, Roma, and Alkmaar. Yeah,
Alkmaar. Like, there's got to be at least 3 wins there for sure. Away from home.
Surely
as well.
You'd be looking to win all 4. To be honest, Roma have had a shocking start to the season.
Yeah, but they're going to be difficult. Obviously, we should win, but it's going to be. But even that's going to be one of the games that's up in the air. Away games, there should be there should be at least 2 wins there as well. So we shouldn't have a problem getting the top 8, but Tottenham never don't like to do things the easy way. We know that, and as well, it was a bit of a concern watching our second team play against Coventry, and if we play like we did against Coventry against some of these teams in Europa League, we might struggle a bit. But this probably should be the easiest of the games, I would say.
I think Elfsborg,
but this is a team from Azerbaijan.
I know, but they're a good team.
Okay.
They're not a poor team.
So Elfsborg, well, okay,
they gave Bayer Leverkusen a proper ride for their money last year. They were seconds away from knocking them out. Do you not remember?
Kind of, yeah, kind
Leverkusen scored 2 goals in stoppage time to knock them out. They gave Leverkusen a really tough game. They drew 2-2 in the first game against them in the last 16, and they lost 3-2 in the game in Leverkusen. So they were actually winning the game going into stoppage time.
How are they doing in the Azerbaijan league this season?
They're top of the league right now.
I think they've won the last 11 leagues or something.
Yeah, they're top of the league, 6 games, and they've also got a game in hand. They're a point clear at the top of the Azerbaijan league, and yeah, they walk that league every year. They're the best team in that league by far. And look, I'm not saying that Spurs obviously should absolutely smash this game, and I'm not like they played Leverkusen in the group stages last year and they lost 5-1. Away from home in Germany, but when it got to the nitty gritty and when it got to the group stages, they actually showed that they've got a bit about them, and they've got quite a few Brazilians in their team that kind of stand them ahead of the rest from in their domestic league. But last year in the Europa League, I've got it here. They didn't have any like tough games in their group. They were against Molde, Hacken, and Leverkusen. They lost both games to Leverkusen in the group, but they did the double over Hacken and they beat and drew with Molde. Then they knocked out Braga in the next round in the last 32.
Impressive.
They beat Braga 4-2 away from home and they lost 3-2 at home. And then in Leverkusen, like I said, they drew 2-2 at home and then they lost 3-2 away from home when Leverkusen had to score 2 goals in stoppage time.
I don't know too many of their players. There's one player I do know from them. That's Yassin Benzia. He used to play for Lyon. Used to play for, I think it was Lille as well. He was actually, I remember back in the day, quite a hot prospect. A lot of people were very excited about him, but I guess he never fulfilled his potential. He's now 30 years of age, playing for Qarabag. So he was one of those players who had a big reputation when he was younger. But yeah, he's now playing Qarabag. But I remember he was a good player back in the day.
They've got a player called Janino up front as well, who scored 6 goals in the Europa League last season. Has already scored 6 goals in the Champions League qualifiers this season as well. So he's a guy that knows where the back of the net is. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and say that I know how Qarabag play, or I've seen much of them, or I've known too many of their players, because I just don't follow the Azerbaijan league. That's the reality.
What?
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? Don't follow the Azerbaijan league. So in terms of this preview, I guess it's going to be more about Tottenham's Europa League journey in general, rather than the specific game against Qarabag. Obviously, as shown against Leverkusen, if you do make too many changes, maybe they can spring a surprise. So you got obviously, I mean, they didn't beat them, but they gave them a close game both times. So I'm assuming that the only reason they did that is because Leverkusen made changes. Probably.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out like what the Leverkusen team actually was.
I know in general they did make changes in Europa League. I remember that last season.
Yeah,
So,
there are a lot of changes here. Like Borja Iglesias was up front for them. They had Wirtz starting. They had Xhaka starting. Hincapié, Tapsoba, Frimpong. They had a few. It was like a mix and match from their first team to the second string.
So I guess Tottenham should learn that lesson. I guess that Leverkusen nearly suffered, and maybe. I mean, look, we have to make changes, and we can't go with the same 11 in this one just because it's Qarabag, just because they gave Leverkusen a game. But you clearly it could be a potential banana skin given that context last season.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to take this game seriously. You can't say just because they're from the Azerbaijan league, you make 9 or 10 changes to the lineup and expect to win the game. You got to take it seriously. I think you play a mix and match between the starting lineup that played on Saturday and some of the youth prospects coming through. And look, this is a competition that we have to go deep in, and we have to take really seriously. I want to win this tournament, and we're favourites going into it, but that doesn't mean we should sniff our noses out, turn our noses up at a team from the Azerbaijan league. We have to go and win this game, and we have to win it comfortably.
Of course. Well, and Ange said in his pre-match press conference that we have a squad. Look who's ready to go into the season, and they don't want to. He said they don't want to. What did he say? He said, we have got a squad of players that we went into the season hoping to play 50-plus games in a year, and you're not going to expect players to play all of them. You're hoping for around 35 games. We don't really want to rotate hugely for each game. Maybe there's an indication that maybe there won't be as many changes in this one than there were against Coventry.
Yeah, I'd assume that. And you're looking at, like, from my understanding, I mean, from the years that Spurs have been in Europe, I can't remember too many times if it's happened ever. Maybe it's happened once before where the player that does the pre-match press conference doesn't start the game. Son did the pre-match press conference, so I'm going to take from that he's going to be starting the game tomorrow.
I mean, I don't know. I have to look through down the years. I don't know, but usually it does happen. But I do remember. I don't remember specifically when it happened, but I do remember there were a couple of times it happened where there was a player doing the press conference and they didn't start. So I don't think it's gospel, but I think I wouldn't say it's completely unfair to say because he did the presser he's going to start, but I would still say he's not. Doesn't mean he definitely is going to start. Yeah,
100%. Nothing's definite until you see that team sheet, is it? But I do think one player that's definitely going to start. Talking about definites is Radu Dragusin. Didn't cover himself in glory in the game up at Coventry, and I do think that he will put I say experienced head, but he had Ben Davis there last time. But I do think he'll put someone there that can, help him along with that high line because essentially Mickey van de Ven, because Romero is suspended coming into this one. So I don't want to see a back two of Dragusin and Ben Davis again because I don't think you can play a high line to a good standard with them two at centre back.
Yeah, the annoying thing is having left out Spence is giving us a bit of a problem at left back because we essentially either have Udogie or Davis. If all Van de Ven, we have to play one of those. We have to play two of those three essentially. And if you wanted to give both Udogie and Van de Ven a rest, that's basically means that's impossible unless we play someone completely unknown in one of those positions.
Yeah.
So that's really frustrating in this game because it would have been good to get Spencer more minutes and. Especially if Forster isn't going to start, which I don't think he will. I do think it'll be Vicario. It's just very frustrating that Spencer's been left out after looking so good against Coventry, but it's going to be tough for him to get minutes in the Premier League. So this would have been a really good competition for him to start. And I think he would have started in this game if he was available, but unfortunately he's not. So,
for love nor money, I just can't rack my brains around it. We got the news, the end of August now, and we're sitting here at the end of September. And I still can't tell you why he's left out Jed Spence from the European squad. So it just makes no sense.
Essentially, it means one of Udogie or Van de Ven needs to play.
Maybe Udogie or Van de Ven play. One of them starts this game, and then one of them starts the game out in Hungary.
Yeah, that could also be a possibility. But this game specifically, one of them's going to have to play. And we have to choose one of them to play. Udogie played 45 minutes against Coventry, played 90 minutes on the weekend. Van der Ven rested against Coventry, played obviously 90 minutes on the weekend. Udogie definitely looked like it helped him get back to match fitness, having those 45 minutes. So whether maybe he plays 45 minutes each in this game, potentially even, and moves Ben Davies from left back to centre back, depending on how the game's gone. Does he just play Van der Ven for 90 minutes? I feel like if you start Van der Ven, it's going to be very difficult to take him off. If you're going to go Davies at left back, that is.
It depends though, because you can start Van der Ven, and if we're really on our game, they could be out of sight by half time if we really, put it to them and are pressing as it was against Brentford, and we're as clinical. If we're more clinical as well, they could be out of sight by half time. Then you can make a wholesale changes in the second half.
Yeah, so depends how the game goes. But if it's a bit of a struggle, you're not going to take Van der Ven off. That's
True.
The thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more difficult to take Van der Ven off than it is to take Udogie off in a weird way because if you start Van der Ven, it's a bit of a struggle. You can't really take him off. But even with Udogie, you can put a midfielder at left back or something. You can always make that a few adjustments. You can't really do that with centre back. So I feel like it would make more sense to maybe play Udogie, but I feel like he will play Van der Ven. I've got a feeling he's gonna have that more quality in the back line to make sure that not getting any surprises.
If he is only taking, if Udogie is our only natural recognised left back right in this Europa League squad, apart from if you count Ben Davies there, which tells to me that in his mind he's got a plan that, because I don't think he's going into this season thinking Udogie has to play every single game, right? So surely he's got a plan of what's going to happen in these games.
Mm-hmm.
You
would think so. He clearly has a plan. The fact that he gave Udogie 45 minutes in commentary, clearly as a pre-planned sub. So he's clearly been planning this out.
But what I'm saying is, because the Europa League games are once every week now for next 3 weeks or something. Mm-hmm. Udogie's not going to play every single game, but you'd assume he'll play every Premier League game.
Yeah.
So something's got to give at some point with the left back, and it just makes a mockery out of the decision, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, or it means Van der Ven's going to have to play some Europa League stuff, and I guess Romero and Van der Ven are not going to just not play in Europa League.
Of course they will.
They'll play. So that will give Udogie some break, because Davies will come in there when Romero or Van der Ven are playing with Dragoshin, or both of them are playing. And then Davies can come in, and when they're resting and Davies starts a left centre back, then Udogie plays. So I think it's just going to be balancing those minutes there.
Yeah, the reality is the game against Coventry was an awful game, really bad, but we should have been a lot better with the personnel that was actually on the pitch. So let's hope it is just down to teething problems with all these players playing together in one stage, and maybe it can get better as the games progress. But look, Ange did say that he doesn't want to make wholesale changes, so it'll be interesting to see what he does actually go with tomorrow night.
Yeah, as I think it probably will be changes. I think there will be players who will need a rest from the weekend, and also the view of the big game at Old Trafford on Sunday. But I don't think it will be 9 changes like against Coventry. I think it'll probably be a bit less than that. And I think he obviously knows how it's important to get off to a winning start in the Europa League. As much as in a weird way, it's probably less important than the Coventry game, because if you lose that Coventry game, you're out. If you lose this game, you've got 7 more games to recover. 100%. But you still want to get off to a winning start, and he won't want to take any chances in that sense. So
if you win this game, you're pretty much 50% qualified for the next round.
Yeah, essentially, they worked out you could technically qualify with 7 points out of 8 games, which is 2 wins and a draw.
Yeah.
So to qualify for the knockout, that is not necessarily, obviously not to the top 8, but for the knockout. So there's a lot of scope for mistakes and drop points if that happens. So it could be a good opportunity to maybe get some minutes into Moore and Lancashire in an environment where it's less pressure. Even if we lose, doesn't really mean that much at this stage. You can always recover it later down the line, and also could be a big confidence boosting opportunity for them if they do well.
Yeah. If you look
they didn't train, they didn't play for the under-21, so definitely going to be in the squad.
Yeah, and I want to see them get some significant minutes. I really do. Solanke as well. He's our only fit, recognised number 9. If you're not taking him into account Will Lancashire, Richarlison's injured, and is Dom Solanke supposed to start every single game now until Richarlison is back?
I mean, I wouldn't say every single game, but I would say this game, because I would say he starts up front. He probably starts on Sunday, and then maybe another one of the games you can either. It depends how Lancashire does on his cameos, or maybe you put Son up front and put Werner on the left or something. So I think he won't start every game, but while he's building up his match fitness right now, I think you probably want to get him some starts and maybe give him an hour and take him off.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and it'll be nice to see Will Lancashire get half an hour in this game. And if he can have a good cameo, then it's someone that maybe we can trust in, definitely in these Europa League games at least.
Well, it's very encouraging that, because he played in under 21s last week, I believe.
Scored straight away.
And scored. So very encouraging that he hasn't put him in again. He's like, all right, off straight into the first team, and you might be getting some minutes here. So that's going to be something really, really interesting to see on Thursday.
And Mikey Moore as well, you know. He hasn't featured in the under-21s for this current squad and for the last squad as well. He came on in the Premier League for the final 5 minutes. He got 10 minutes in the end with stoppage time and stuff. So again, I want to see Mikey Moore get some significant minutes in this game.
Hopefully more than 3 or whatever it
exactly.
was on the weekend.
Well, he got 10 minutes in total on the weekend.
10 minutes in total, yeah. But
the game was done.
Was it 10? Because he came on after we scored the goal.
I'm sure he come on with 5 minutes to go, and then he got 5 minutes stoppage time.
Depends when we score. When did we score the goal? Because he came on literally just after I think we scored, and then we made those subs, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, look, give or take a couple of minutes, he played the best part of 10 minutes.
It's not a lot.
No,
and the game was done.
The game was done.
Yeah, we weren't really attacking at that point.
He came on the 88th minute in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, he got 7 minutes.
And did he have a touch of the ball?
No, I don't think he got one touch.
So that needs to change. I'm looking at this Europa League squad, 36 teams. I mean, what 8 teams could finish above us? Do we think? Like, I can't. We've got Man United, obviously could be there. You got Sociedad. You got Lazio, maybe.
Galatasaray.
Maybe Galatasaray. That's 4. Athletic Bilbao. That's 5. Maybe Ajax, but they haven't been so good. But that's 6. I mean, after that, if we're maybe Porto 7.
Sociedad, did you say?
I said Sociedad. So Porto. That's 7 clubs at a push, I would say, and a few of them we should be finishing.
Yeah, but also you don't know who's drawn with who. You know, some teams could have very favourable fixtures and have a good run.
Because everyone's got 2 from pot 1, 2 from pot 2, 2 from pot 3, 2 from pot 4. Everyone's got the same in terms of that.
But there's different levels in each pot, isn't there? So one could get luck of the draw.
I think luck of the draw's not really a thing, given that. Because yes, some teams can get moderately more difficult draws than others, but because everyone's got the same from each pot, it's unlike when it used to be. Because if you were in pot 1, you're only facing another pot 1, only one more pot 1 team. But now everyone's facing the same. And
on top of that, a lot of pot 1 teams can play second string teams in these kind of games, particularly when they're playing against kind of the lower ranked teams. So you never know, surprises can happen, particularly in a group stage like this. How many times have we seen it in the Europa League group stages where loads of surprises just spring themselves about?
This is a different group stage, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's it's 8 games and it's one long league. And
I think it's probably even more likely in this kind of group stages that players will get rested because it's easier to qualify.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if we finish below those, apart from those 7 teams I mentioned, if we're finishing below any of those other teams, it's hard to envisage that.
We can't finish outside the top 8.
We have to be in the top 8, and it would be so good for the second half of the season. We can avoid that double game, that playoff, just more congestion. I don't know when that would be, but probably February time, or something. Because because the league stage goes into January this time, so we're going to have even more games in January. I
just really don't like this setup of Europe. I think they've done it for no reason whatsoever. I didn't have a problem with the group stages as it was. I feel like they've added a group. They've added an extra 2 games for literally no reason. In my opinion,
that I don't like. I don't like the fact that they've added that extra group phase. I don't mind the change in design because I thought the group stages were pretty boring, to be honest. in the Europa League.
And you think
last
this
time
will be any more exciting?
Well, in theory, we'll see how it goes in practice, but in theory, that keeps the games open up until the last game, because you're looking to get into that top 8 at the very least, and your position could change, and it could be quite tight between all the positions. So that keeps the competitiveness up until the last game. That's in theory. Now, in practice, what might be happening is there might be a lot of teams going into the last day where both teams just need a draw to get into
what's the difference what's the difference then to the group stage of what it used to be? Because at some point, some groups were dead by the last game, some groups were very much open by the last day.
Most of them were dead.
But this
very rarely were they open.
No, I don't know about that. There were quite a few groups every year.
You might have one group, one or two groups that are open. Most of
I don't think that's true.
Look at last. I'm telling you, most were dead. Most are really dead by the end.
I mean, the majority of groups that Spurs have been in have always been alive till quite close till the end, at least.
I can't remember. Well, Europa League groups. I mean, we actually, you know what? We haven't played a Europa League game with a new stadium with fans.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Wait, our last Europa League game was against Ghent, wasn't it?
No, we played under Mourinho in Europa League, but no fans.
Oh, Dynamo Zagreb was our last Europa League game. Somehow I kind of blotched that out of my mind. And you know what? That's the last Europa League game we did a watch-along for, me and you, right here in the studios. Let's hope it's not a bad omen.
God. What was I going to say? I'm trying to remember the group stage. I think the Mourinho one, we were done. We qualified for that pretty early, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
The one with Ghent was actually, we dropped down from Champions League. I mean, was there any Europa League game between Ghent and then? I don't think so.
No. We're in the Champions League after that.
We were in the Champions League before that. Before that, under Poch, I think we qualified fairly early, and then we went out to Dortmund.
So you might have a case talking about Europa League, because I don't really focus too much on the Europa League group phases. I was thinking more about Champions League.
No one cares about it.
But they've done it to all Europe. It's not just about the Europa League.
But in theory, it keeps the games alive. That's the theory. Well, look, it's the first year, so we don't really know. But I think the theory makes sense. I don't like that they're adding. First of all, it's 2 extra games for everyone. In the group phase, and then it's 2 extra games for 16 of those teams in the playoff as well, if they finish between whatever it is 9th and 24th. So that's also extra games, which seems really unnecessary. So I think that is not great. That is a bit needless, I would say. But in terms of changing it just to one big league, I mean, I'm willing to see where it goes. I'm not against that, to be honest.
I just don't like the idea of them. I just don't like what they're trying to do with football. And, you know, a lot of players have come out and talked about it. Rodri is saying before his injury, you know, players are close to going on strike. Sonny was talking about it in the press conference today, you know, talking up against it about the amount of games. So it's just needless to add these extra games.
That I agree with.
Like, why? And then at the end of the season, you're going to have this new World Club Cup with 32 teams playing God knows how many games in that tournament. So literally, for a fan, you're talking about it. Yeah, it's nice. You know, you get to see loads of games of football, and it's like a constant conveyor belt of football, which we all want to see. But at the end of the day, it will end up diluting the product.
For sure. And I don't know what direction it goes. Maybe it'll mean in the future teams will have bigger squads, and you'll have like a squad, a team for this competition.
You're not even allowed bigger squads.
Huh?
You know, you're saying in the future it might come, but right now, like, you're only allowed a squad of 25.
Where it's headed, like maybe in the future, like they allow you a squad of like 30, and you just have a squad for this and a squad for that, and that's how they're going to do it, because you can't have all these players playing all these games. It's unsustainable, and that's why we're seeing just so many more injuries racking up, and also the product, you know, you're seeing less good players or their best players not always in their best form, and you're seeing more inconsistency with players as well. And it's because of the crazy schedule. And not only is it the schedule becoming crazier, but the game itself is becoming even more physically intense than it ever was.
Yeah.
And teams and players are more athletic. Teams like press more, they run more. There's more focus on how much you run and closing space and all this kind of stuff. So all this feeds into each other, and it's leading to an unsustainable end, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Can't agree more. And, you know, I think, was it you that was telling me, or someone was telling me that they want to bring like the World Cup every 2 years as well, stuff like that now.
Talks of that as well, yeah.
Like, it's just a constant money grabbing heist. That's what it is, football. That's what football's becoming. I refuse to believe that they've brought this new format in for competitiveness. They brought it in because of the extra 2 games and they get to make extra money. That's why they brought it in.
Of course, but I think as well, from the players' point of view, if look, they get paid well. I'm not saying they get paid well, so they should part up with it. What I'm saying is, they get paid because of all these competitions, right? So these competitions are broadcasting rights, which give the clubs big money, which obviously feeds into the players' wages because the players know how much they're worth compared to how much the club is making, right? Now, if you take some of these competitions away or some of these games away, that means the clubs will be making less. So if the players are so concerned about it, then they should be saying, we're willing to take a pay cut. We're willing to take less money for less games because that's how it's going to work.
But we're just adding more games. We're not like the games that they were playing before. Yes, it was a lot, but they were still getting the same amount of wages. Like, these extra games haven't fed into these players' contracts yet.
But it will do.
Well, their money will go even more then.
Yeah,
like,
it will.
So
that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. The money doesn't need to go up.
No, it needs to go down.
Yeah, it does need to go down, but I don't think so, man, because
if you're saying they need less games, and
they're less games. I'm not saying they need less games. I'm saying they don't need to add games.
But I think they need less games now, and that's what they're complaining about. Because I think they're already complaining about too many games, and they're talking about adding games to already too many games. That's a big problem. I'm saying if we're taking games away, then I think it's only fair that their pay has to go down because that's going to take money away from the club, in my opinion. And if players are that concerned about it, they should be able.
Well, what games can we realistically take away?
What games can I don't know. That I don't know what we can take away right now. That's up to the first, maybe League Cup games. It's up to less rounds.
League Cup needs to stay. 2-legged semi-finals doesn't need to be a thing anymore.
Yeah,
that doesn't need to be a thing anymore.
Or maybe it's just the case with the League Cup. Like you have to, like, for Premier League teams, they can only play players under 23 or something. Like, just make it a youth thing for the Premier League teams. That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting, particularly for us.
Yeah,
I like the way you think.
Yeah, something like that. Like for Premier League teams, you can only play players under 23 or something.
The reality is,
or for teams in Europe. How about that? For teams in
Europe.
Europe.
Why can't we just say, for a starting block, keep adding games, stop adding these games, and then we can start thinking about taking away games.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
So, look, the whole thing is a bit ridiculous in my opinion. But look, and we've veered off subject here. We're talking about the game against Qarabag.
Because we don't have much to talk about. Qarabag, that's why.
Well, look at the form between the two teams. Or not between the two teams, but the form of the two teams coming into it. We all know how Spurs are doing. I think it kind of did feel like against Brentford, it felt like Spurs maybe have turned a little bit of a corner. In terms of, the pressing was still there. I think it was even better. And we had a willingness to actually put away those chances.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see if we can keep it up before we talk about corner being turned. But definitely it was a very good performance. So hopefully we can take that into this game, and hopefully the confidence will be up a bit. Obviously, you got to remember as well the commentary game off the back of 2 defeats, so maybe the confidence was a bit low. But now we've won a couple of games. Brendan Johnson's been on the score sheet. We've been scoring. We scored 5 goals now in the last couple of games, so getting used to finding the back of the net. So hopefully that feeds into the form. That feeds into the game on Thursday. We shouldn't need to be on good form to beat Qarabag, but still, every little helps.
Yeah. And we actually have played Qarabag in our recent future back in 2015. And I believe that's when Sonny scored his first 2 goals for the club, wasn't it?
It was. It was his home debut, I think. And he scored a brace.
We actually went 1-0 down in that game, didn't we?
Of course we did.
After 7 minutes, a penalty to Qarabag. Was that White Hart Lane? Yeah, it must have been at White Hart Lane. And then Sonny scored 2 goals before half-time. Then Lamela sealed it off with 5 minutes to go. And then we played them away from home and just won 1-0 with Harry Kane scoring the goal. So, look, there is no reasons why we shouldn't be flexing our muscles in this game and just going for the jugular. And hopefully, I want to see us start fairly strong, but I want to see us blow them out the water and make changes early in the game. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's I think that'll be the plan. And that's obviously if Ange would give his perfect, way the game goes, you start with a fairly strong lineup, and then we score a few goals, and we're able to rest players in a view for Sunday. Obviously, it doesn't always work out like that, but I'm sure that will be what Ange really wants to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Score prediction.
I am going to go 3-1.
3-1.
3-1.
Same as the last time that they came to 2017,
yeah? I think they'll... Actually, 3-0. Well, you know what? Clean sheet.
I'm going to go 4-1 Spurs.
4-1.
4-1. I think we'll take them to the cleaners tomorrow night. And Solanke will get on the score sheet. Sonny will get on the score sheet. And, yeah, we'll probably go 1-0 down or something like that. But I think it should be a convincing victory. It's got to be.
It'll be good if, keep that if we can just keep the confidence of Solanke and Johnson on the goal trail after this game. I think that will just really keep them ticking over going into the game at Old Trafford, which is a big game.
Yeah.
And we need to get something out of it. So, I think that's why I think some of these players will play. Some of them will want to keep their confidence going. You don't want to take them out of the team right now and hope with the view of they get a goal contribution, then you take them off early.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Cuti Romero is suspended going into this game following his red card, 2 years ago now? Or was it 3 years ago now?
2 years ago. It was
2 years ago against Milan.
March 2023.
Just right at the end of Conte's reign. So, yeah, is he suspended for 1 or 2 games?
It was a double yellow, so
one game. Yeah, so he'll just miss this one. He'll be back for the Fenerbahce game next week. That's it, Fenerbahce next week in Hungary. So, I think that game will be a very physical game, so it'll probably be good to get him back for it. But look, I'm going 4-1. Sim's going 3-0, sorry. Let me know your scorelines in the comment section below.